Welcome to a video where we will identify the values of the variables and then solve the problem using the TVM solver. In this video, we're going to look at a compound interest problem where we're asked to find the future value. Let's get started. The TVM solver, or the time value money solver, is an application that allows you to quickly solve compound interest problems, including annuities and loans, without using the formulas. I have another video where I go more in depth on how to use the TVM solver, and I'll link it in the description below. Before we look at our problem, just a couple tips about using the TVM solver. When you use the TVM solver, you need to consider the direction of the cash flow. Cash outflow, or money you're paying out, are considered a negative. Cash inflows, or money that's coming in, are considered a positive value. Deposits and loan payments are always considered negatives because they represent an amount that you must pay out every month. This is different than when you use the formulas. When you use the formulas, you don't have to consider which way the cash is flowing. So just keep in mind when you use the TVM solver, you need to think about the direction in which the cash is flowing. Okay, let's take a look at our problem statement. In this problem, we are asked how much money does Linda have in a bank account after 2 years if she invests $2,050 at 4.1% interest compounded quarterly. So when we see that we are using a bank account that compounds interest, we know that we can use the TVM solver. So on the right-hand side, you should see that I've listed all of the variables here, and we'll go through and identify the values of each one of these variables and then use the TVM solver to solve this problem. The first thing we need to find is lowercase n, which is the number of times interest is compounded in 1 year. Toward the bottom of the problem, it says that interest is compounded quarterly, so that tells us that lowercase n would be 4. Next, we need to know the amount of time the money is going to be invested in the account. Since this problem asks how much money does Linda have in a bank account after 2 years, we see that t is equal to 2. Now we want to find lowercase n and t because the first variable you're asked for when using the TVM solver is capital N, and these are the total number of payments or compounding periods throughout the duration of the account. In this case, we need to take 4 and multiply it by 2, and we get that capital N is 8. So there are 8 compounding periods while this money is invested in the bank account. Next thing we need to find is I, which is the annual interest rate, and we need to enter it as a percent, not a decimal. That's different than when you're using the formulas. So in this problem, it says she invests $2,050 at 4.1% interest. So I is equal to 4.1. Now let's go ahead and find the present value, or the principal. This is the starting amount or initial investment. So going back to the problem, it says how much money does Linda have in a bank account after 2 years if she invests $2,050. This is our principal, or our present value. Because this is cash, we need to think about the direction of the cash flow. Since this money is flowing out of her account and into a bank account, this value needs to be negative. So PV is equal to negative 2,050. The next variable on the TVM solver is PMT, which stands for the payment amount. These are equal or regular payments that are being made into the account. And to be honest, it looks like she's not making monthly payments. She only makes a one-time investment of $2,050. Since she is not making any regular payments, the value of PMT is actually 0 here. The next variable we're asked to find is FV, which is the future value, or the ending amount. This problem asks us how much money does Linda have in a bank account. That means that we're actually looking for the future value. So this is our unknown quantity. So we'll just say that FV is an unknown for right now. And the last variables we need to identify are PY and CY. These values are always the same, and these are the number of payment periods or the number of compounding periods per year. Since this account compounds interest quarterly, PY and CY are going to be equal to 4. Okay, let's go over to the TVM solver and solve this problem. Here's the free TVM solver that is also linked in the video description. Let's go ahead and enter the values of our variables in. We found that capital N, the number of compounding periods, was 8. I was 4.1. PV was negative 2050. PMT was 0. FV, the future value, is what we're looking for, so we will skip that for right now. And PY and CY need to be 4, and you'll notice when I change the first one to 4, it automatically changes the second one to 4. Now, since we were trying to find the future value, we'll go back up to the line where we see FV and we'll click Solve next to that. So Linda will have $2,224.26 at the end of 2 years if she invests $2,050 into an account at 4.1% interest compounded quarterly. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching.